Learners construct their own knowledge and do this by categorizing and organizing information using a coding system. Good day, everyone. I am Lindsay Faith Ilkilnet, major in Social Studies. In this pre-record, I will discuss about Bruner's Constructivist theory and the main concept of Bruner's, which are enactive representation, iconic representation, and symbolic representation. Objectives are to explain the Bruner's Constructivist theory and to determine the main concept of Bruner's Constructivist theory. First is we need to know who is the person behind this theory. The person behind this theory is Jerome Bruner. A cognitive psychologist created a theory of development based upon the idea that the goal of education should be intellectual development. Jerome Bruner was one of the first proponents of constructivism. A major theme in the theory of Bruner is that learning is an active process in which learners construct new ideas or concepts based upon their current or past knowledge. Bruner's theory on constructivism encompasses the idea of learning as an active process wherein those learning are able to form new ideas based on what our current knowledge is as well as our past knowledge. So now that we have tackled Bruner's constructivist theory, let's move forward to its main concept. In his research on the cognitive development of children, Jerome Bruner proposed three modes of representation. The enactive representation, which is the action-based, iconic representation, image-based, symbolic representation, which is the language-based. Bruner was concerned with how knowledge is represented and organized through different modes of thinking or representation. In this slide, we can see the mode of representation or the technique or method. First is enactive, which is learned through movement or action. Ages 0 to 1 year old. The iconic is learned through images, age 1 to 6 years old. Symbolic is learned through abstract symbols and age 7 years old and up. And now the enactive representation. At the earliest ages, children learned about the world through actions on physical objects and the outcomes of these actions. They are represented in the muscles and involve motor responses or ways to manipulate the environment. This is the first kind of memory. This mode is used within the first year of life. Thinking is based entirely on physical actions, and infant learn by doing, rather than thinking by internal representation. It involves encoding physical action-based information and storing it on our memory. It involves encoding physical action-based information and storing it in our memory. For example, in the form of movement as a muscle memory, a baby might remember the action of doing building blocks or shaking a rattle. This mode continues later in many physical activities, such as learning to ride a bike. Many adults can perform a variety of motor tasks like typing, sewing a shirt, operating a lawn mower, that they would find difficult to describe in an iconic or symbolic form. Representation of objects and events through action of movement, which is characteristic of infants and small children. That is, the child understands things in terms of how they can manipulate, used, or acted upon. Next is the iconic representation. This second stage is when learning can be obtained through using models and pictures. The learner can now use mental images to stand up for certain objects or events. Iconic representations allow one to recognize objects when they are changed into minor ways. The iconic stage appears from 1 to 6 years old. This stage involves an internal representation of external objects visually in a form of a mental image or icon. For example, a child draw an image of a tree or thinking of an image of a tree would be representative of this stage. And the last representation is symbolic. In this third stage, the learner has developed the ability to think in abstract terms. This uses a symbol system to encode knowledge. The most common symbol system is language and mathematical notation. The symbolic stage from 7 years and up is when information is stored in the form of a code or symbol such as language. Each symbol has a fixed relation to something it represents. For example, the word dog is a symbolic representation for a single class of animal. Symbols, unlike mental images or memorized actions, can be classified and organized. In this stage, most information is stored as words, mathematical symbols, or in other symbol system. Bruner advised that teachers or parents utilize and bring together concrete, pictorial, and symbolic activities to facilitate learning. Before children can comprehend abstract mathematical operations, teachers and parents can first have the numbers represented inactively or with blocks, shaking a rattle, or doing that required actions or movements. And then iconically or in pictures, you picture out what you want to draw or what you want to see. Children can later on handle numbers of concepts without concrete objects and only with numbers and number signs or the symbols. All in all, the main theme inherent in constructivism is that people learn by constructing new ideas and concepts by interpreting them through comparison with previous knowledge. People attribute meaning to new ideas, and this process represents learning. Bruner's work emphasized the importance of understanding the structure of a subject being studied, the need for active learning as the basis for true understanding, and the value of reasoning in learning. His constructivist theory is a general framework for instruction based upon the study of cognition. And that is the Bruner's constructivist theory and its main concept. I hope you enjoy and learn something about this discussion, and I hope to see you soon.